Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Call Up, the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Prospect Show with your co-hosts, as always, Marty Tallman and Cristian Crespo. Today, we are closing out the AL Central with the Minnesota Twins. And we are back, and today we have a very special guest. He is the co-founder of Triple Play Fantasy. He's an expert ranker for Fantasy Pros, baseball writer for Fantrax, writes about football, does all types of stuff in the fantasy industry. You know him as David Mendelson, but around here, we know him simply as the boss. D. Mendy, welcome to the show.
It's weird having the intro stuff thrown back at me. But you guys know, never the boss. We're all co-workers, all working together here at Triple Play Fantasy.
I said that specifically because I know you get uncomfortable when I call you the boss. That's why I did.
Yeah,
Head honcho.
You know me well. But I'm pumped to be joining you guys today. The Call's doing numbers on the YouTube channel, and you guys are doing great work. So I'm ready to talk about some Minnesota Twins, even though at the pro level, it's been pretty ugly as of recent years.
Yeah, and that's a good segue. I mean, how are you feeling overall about the Twins farm system going into 2022?
I'm feeling a little bit better this offseason compared to last offseason. I think some guys have made strides. And, of course, we brought in some talent from a big trade during the season into the organization. We haven't developed pitching. So even though I'll see guys in the prospect system at pitch, and there's a couple guys we'll talk about today, I've been very skeptical just because the Twins have had problems developing their own guys. And it's been something that's been spanning since I've been a fan of the team, which goes back to like the early 2000s. So, again, I'm very optimistic, but I'm also being cautious because this is something that they have a bad track record for. But hopefully these guys can come in and we can get the Minnesota Twins back to being contenders soon.
And Cristian, how do you feel about the team overall as far as their farm system and their outlook for 2022?
It's definitely going to be, not definitely because you never know in baseball, but it's going to be a roughish year for the Twins, I would say. Just because they're kind of like in that in-between where they have a couple aging veterans, the Josh Donaldsons and Miguel Sano's and the Jorge Polanco's, not really aging, but, older guys. And then they have the young guys that are slowly coming up, the Kirilloffs, the Larnachs. And so it's a decent combination of both, but it's just, I don't know. It's just like they're in an awkward spot, because they're not good enough to compete at the top of the division with the top end talent that's there, but they're also not like the worst when it comes to roster construction. And then we'll talk about their farm system, but it's like David said, it's just tough because you're in a division with Cleveland, who is known as the juggernaut of developing pitchers. So you've been following that for such a long time. But they do have some intriguing arms, especially from this past draft as well, that we'll also talk about. But I don't know, it's could be looking a little brighter.
It's hard too. I'm sorry, I had to mention really quick. You got the Tigers and you got the White Sox, who are looking like they're going to dominate the division for a long time, and you got the Royals, who might have one of the best prospect systems out there, and you guys highlighted that recently. And it's just all the talent they have there. It's just like you're like, well, are we fighting for fourth place at this point? Because it's scary when you look at those teams.
Yeah, and over the last 5 years, the AL Central has been pretty much a joke, and I don't have any problem saying that. And I think, for the next 5 years, I think we're going to have some of the best talent. It's going to be super exciting. And speaking of talent and super exciting, and you alluded to it, there was a trade last year for Jose Barrios. Austin Martin was sent over to the Twins, 22-year-old shortstop outfielder. He was out of the 2020 draft. He was picked 5th overall, signed a $7 million signing bonus. In 2021, over 93 games at AA, he slashed 270, 474, 382, 5 home runs, 35 RBIs, 14 stolen bases. Mendy, we'll start here with you. How do you feel about Austin Martin?
He was drafted number 5 in the 2020 draft. Some were talking about him being the best hitter in the class. And he's outstanding feel as far as getting the barrel to the ball, makes effortless hard contact. He's got a short, quick right-handed stroke. Seems to actually have pretty good control of the strike zone as well. The power wasn't there. He only had 2 home runs last year in 2020. but I think he can eventually get some more power. Not saying he's going to be a big power bat, but I think enough to be relevant. And I mean, he's the ability to get on base consistently, his versatility to play over the field, which they're going to need him to play most likely in the outfield when Royce Lewis comes up, because Royce Lewis is a shortstop and Austin Martin can play shortstop and outfield. So I think they'll move him around. But I mean, just the combination of the versatility, the floor that I think he gives you, and just his overall hit tool, I think he's definitely the number one prospect in this system.
Yeah, and I think the biggest question is going to be, will he be able to produce more than 20 home runs per year? Because what we're seeing now, it's kind of, I thought there was going to be more power. Last year, we barely saw any. But Cristian, I want to hear your thoughts on it.
So in regards to power, that's the big thing that people talked about during the pre-draft process. And that's kind of why his stock fell like closer to the draft. I mean, it didn't fall far, obviously, because he'll still pick 5th overall. But I mean, David said it. His bat to ball skills are almost elite. You know, he's able to make such great contact with the ball. He has a very good knowledge of the strike zone as well. He's able to draw his walks. But I mean, he slugged what, 382 this past season. That's not great.
You do the stats for the show, and I literally had to look it up. I was like, "Is that right?" Because I'm looking at him like, "Can it be? Can your how often do you see slug lower than your OBP? I don't. It's rare."
Just look at Austin Martin. But you said it, like try to hit 20. I don't see him hitting 20. I think he's more of a maybe like 12 to 15 home run guy. He's definitely a bat first. And then in regards to his defense, you know, he's an average defender. He's a great athlete. But he had, I think it's here, 16 errors in 42 games at shortstop in the minor leagues last year. His glove does profile a little better if he would play third base, which could be an option for him there. But he can also play the outfield. You know, they've moved him around a lot. Just he's going to make an impact in the lineup. He's going to be in the everyday lineup. Now it's just what else he'll be able to do. He's going to be able to get on base, and I think that's going to be his biggest impact for the Twins going forward.
Yeah, and do you have an ETA for him and also a player comp?
ETA, he'll probably be up this year, maybe middle of the year. To me, he's kind of like a Ben Zobrist kind of player. You know, he could fill in multiple positions. Ben Zobrist also really good at putting the bat on the ball and just making a ton of contact, and that's going to be his, like I said, that's going to be his biggest thing on a major league roster.
Awesome. Let's move on to number 2. Jordan Balazovic, a 23-year-old right-handed pitcher out of the 2016 draft, drafted 153rd overall. In 2021, over 20 games at AA, he pitched 97 innings. He had a 3.62 ERA, 1.40 whip, 102 Ks with 38 walks. Cristian, he's your number 1 arm. Tell me about him.
Yeah, I mean, he has a big arm, generates like just so much power behind it. He's sits anywhere between 95 to 97 miles an hour with his fastball. He does have a power curveball that sits in the 80s as well. It pairs off very well. He also has a changeup that he doesn't really throw too much. It's still a work in progress, but you can definitely see flashes of it when he, you know, is able to execute it and find the control. He does create a lot of deception with his mechanics as well, which is kind of why he's able to, you know, get ahead of hitters as easy as it does. And then he's also trying to work on a 4th pitch, which is a slider, but it doesn't really have that break. It's more cutter-ish. And the fact that he's throwing it almost 90 miles an hour, you know, really, really showcases that. But he's got a really, really good baseline. And so I think his floor is actually pretty high. And so, I mean, it's, as long as he can continue to develop at the way he's doing, I feel like he's going to make an impact at the big league roster. I mean, he has almost ace potential.
Yeah, and what stood out to me, because I watched a lot of footage of him, is that the confidence. There were so many times where it was 1-2, 0-2, and he just throws a fastball high, you know, right down, like you're nipping at the corner, maybe just right at you. So I love the confidence, and when you talk about an ace mentality, that's something you're going to need when you get called up to the bigs.
He's like he's a silent killer too, because like he'll flash some emotion here and there, but he's very quiet. It might be the Canadian in him, who knows? But it's a kind of like Jose Barrios, kind of like keeps his composure on the mound, just goes out there, goes about his business, dominates, and yeah.
Mendy, how do you feel about him?
Yeah, those Canadians are tough. Yeah, he's the organization's #1 pitcher, and he looked, as kind of Cristian talked about, he's got great command, mid-90s fastball, hard breaking pitch, tons of movement on it. I think he's going to be, getting a shot at AAA this year, and yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see him get called up to the big leagues. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about him. With that mid-90s fastball, he can get a lot of swings and misses at the top of the strike zone. That breaking ball that he can use for deception and have hitters chasing down and in. When he faces lefties, and that changeup that Cristian talked about, I think he's going to work on that, and hopefully be able to have 3 good pitches that he can use at the major league level. And yeah, I mean, this is a guy that you could see again, like I was mentioning, next year. So I'm, like I said at the beginning, I'm very cautious with Twins pitchers because Jose Barrios is literally the only major league pitcher that's had a consistent track record over the last decade. It's felt like that they've developed themselves, right? And so that's where I'm like, hey, looks good, but when he sees the Twins coaching and their pitching coaches and the major league pitchers at the major league level, that's where I'm going to be like, okay, now I need to see you carry over this hype into the big leagues.
So 2022 is going to be a big year for him. Cristian, Mendy says 2023 is a good ETA. Is that what you're thinking as well?
Yeah. It obviously depends. They can bring him up maybe the last month of this year just to get him a little feel of the big leagues. Obviously, it just depends on how he's able to produce in the minors this year. He should, at least end the season in AAA. But yeah, he could get a taste of the big leagues later on.
Awesome. All right, let's look at number 3. This is my favorite prospect to be watching. I mean, he's just thunderous. Jose Miranda, 23-year-old third baseman / first baseman. He's out of the 2016 draft. He went 13 overall. In 2021, over 127 games at AA and AAA / 344, 401, 572 with 30 home runs, 94 RBI and 4 steals. And that picture, I picked that purposely because that was his Miranda's first game at AAA, which was also his birthday. And Cristian already knows this is when he hit 3 home runs, one of them being a grand slam. If you have an opportunity, go look at the highlights. It was absolutely incredible. Mendy, I want to start with you. What do you see out of this big bat?
Well, this was from Prospects 1500 right at the end of August. So at August 29th, he actually became the first player in minor league Twins history at this point in the season. He was tied first of all Twins prospects in home runs, second in RBIs, led everyone in batting average and hits. And on top of that, he had also led all Twins prospects in games played, plate appearances, and at bats. So this is through all the minor league systems of the Twins. So it's pretty crazy that one player can be that high up and all of those statistics over all 3 levels there. So that already can kind of start being said about him. But I mean, you also talk about the position versatility that he has. 13 at first base, 20 at second base. He had 39 at third base, 3 in left field. So they can move him around the diamond, which if they need to do that. Right now you have Josh Donaldson at third base, but him and his cranky calves, I think other people, that's what they call his calves. And Alex Kirilloff is now getting groomed for first base. So, there is going to be positions that are going to be open for him if he continues to play like the level that he was playing at last year. He's like if we're like the first 2 guys are like, yeah, you know what, I'm reading a book. I know what to expect. This is the guy that you're like opening up something and you're like, holy crap, like this could be better than I expected. Like this is the mystery box of like, this could be the #1 player of all these guys. And I wouldn't be shocked just with the way that he's been playing in the minors and what he could do at the pro level. So I'm excited for him. I have him at number 4, and I know Cristian has him at number 3, but I'm not arguing about him being number 3.
Yeah, and when you see him and when he's hitting his home runs, I mean, most of them are pull, but there's so many also to left center, right center. He's hitting line drives out. He's hitting regular bombs out. I mean, he's doing a little bit of it all. Cristian, he's your number 3 guy for a reason. Tell me about him.
So to top off everything that David said about him and his ability to just absolutely mash baseballs this past season, especially, he struck out less than 12% of the time. But I mean, the caveat to that is that he's very aggressive at the plate. So he is ready to go up there and he'll swing first, second pitch. He doesn't really work a lot of counts, so he's not going to draw a lot of walks. But as long his contact ability is good enough to where he's putting balls outside of the strike zone in play. So I mean, it's going to be fun to watch him. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been up last year, just with the way he was producing in the minor league level, especially that Josh Donaldson, you could pencil him in for 2 IL stints a year. Miguel Sano should not be um, on the field at all. And Kirilloff was hurt too. So there were so many reasons why they should have brought him up. Obviously, it goes back to service time manipulation and all that, but he's definitely going to be up this year. He's definitely going to make an impact. Where he plays on the field, they'll find a way to put his bat in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, that's something Twins fans really need to look forward to, because he's going to be, instant production. Do you have a player comp for him, Cristian?
I think kind of like Michael Kadire, sort of, throwing it
Yeah.
a little old school Twins.
I love it. Yeah.
Just because of his contact ability. Michael Kadire did win a batting title. He wasn't really known for his power. And with Miranda really wasn't known for that much power coming into this past season. He really showcased it for the first time. But, just the ability to put the bat on the ball and make a ton of contact, that's what kind of put me to that comparison.
Absolutely. And not far away from him is Royce Lewis. So he's your number 4 guy, 22-year-old shortstop, originally out of the 2017 draft, went first overall, signed the $6.72 million signing bonus. Obviously, he had his torn ACL. He didn't play in 2021. Cristian, why is he your number 4 guy?
There's so much potential in Royce Lewis, but we have not seen him play in essentially 2 years. And that's kind of worrisome, just because, especially coming off the COVID season, and then right at the very beginning of last year, he tore his ACL, so he didn't get to play. He's just his swing is kind of out of whack. He kind of looks like he swings out of control sometimes. So that's kind of also concerning, but you can tell with the athleticism that he has, he's going to be a really good baseball player. Whether it's translate over to fantasy, we don't really know, but I mean, the skill set is there. There's a reason why he was taken number 1 overall, and I'm still a believer in him. I know a lot of people have soured on him, but I mean, just incredible bat speed too. He's still raw, and it's because he hasn't had that experience because of the injuries. So hopefully this season will finally be it, and we'll be able to see him at the big league level. So I guess we'll see what happens.
See. And yeah, I mean, he has tons of potential. Obviously, that's why he was taken first overall. Mendy, he's your number 3 guy. So when Cristian talks about people souring on him, you are not one of those guys. Tell me why. Oh, muted. I'm telling Art.
Rookie.
I'm telling Art.
Oh,
Art's going to love this.
Called my hand in the cookie. Yeah, I mean, like Cristian talked about, the injuries, I think, are why he's being brought down some. So he's going to have to prove that he's over the injuries. But this is somebody that's got the tools to be a 5-category stud, a franchise player. When he was drafted, that's what the Twins envisioned him to be: elite power and speed. Again, the risk of him, obviously, with the injury stuff is there, but his ceiling is really high. And I mean, it's one of those guys too that's like worked on certain things along the way. Like I remember when he initially was drafted and he was starting out in the minors, he was really struggling. And this is kind of going back to 2019. He had a big leg kick in his swing, but they worked on that. And now he became somebody more that they envisioned him to be. He was able to drive the ball with harder contact to all fields, and the power started coming there more. The base stealing ability, like I talked about, the athleticism on the defensive side of the ball. I just think there's so much still there. He's still so young. And I know there's prospect fatigue and he's starting to get to that point, but I still think this guy's still a top 3 prospect for this team. And he should still be, inside the top 20 prospects in baseball. I still think he has that type of ceiling personally. Cristian gives me the stink face, but I still think he has that potential. And if he goes out this year and starts balling out in AA, AAA, wherever the Twins want to start him at, I think he'll show you guys really quickly that he belongs there.
Yeah, so if you're going to be drafting a Dynasty League this year, you may be able to get him at the biggest discount we've seen, and he could be one of those players that, is at the forefront of your team. Cristian, I want you to give me your rebuttal real quick. Why do we kind of give that look? You don't see him being the top 20 guy?
Not in baseball. There's way too much talent in baseball right now, just in general, at the prospect level, that he's not top 20 right now. To me, I mean, he has the skill set too, but it gives me like Byron Buxton vibes.
Just
Like
the inability to stay healthy.
exactly. Like when he's on the field, he'll be able to produce, and he has that athleticism, but how many games are you going to get from him during the year? And the consistency too. Like that's another thing. Like he has shown the flashes, but he hasn't been able to hold it, over long period of time.
If I'm not
Yeah, and so
mistaken, he was the number one prospect, at least in a couple places, not too long ago. Right now, I just pulled up Google top 100 prospects just to see and it was MLB's top 100 prospects. They have him right now at 35. So again, there's some names I see ahead of him that I could easily see him leapfrogging if he lives up to the potential that he has. So I mean, this will be something to watch. It'd be interesting to see during the season if he can get back to that elite level that many projected him to be.
yeah, I mean, so 2022, it's going to be a huge year for him, just not only professionally, but also for us fantasy wise. And let's go to guys already made it to the big leagues here. Joe Ryan, he's your fifth guy, Christian, the 25-year-old right-handed pitcher. In 2021, he had 14 games at AAA before getting the call up. See what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
Over 66 innings, he had a 3.41 ERA, a 0.79 whip, 92 Ks with only 12 walks. So he gets the call up 5 games in. He, over those 26.2 innings, had 4.05 ERA, 0.79 whip, 30 Ks, and only 5 walks. Let's take a moment here just to look how beautiful the powdered blue Twins jerseys are. They're one of my favorite jerseys in sports. Mendy, tell me a little bit about Joe Ryan.
Well, he was acquired in the Nelson Cruz trade, and he had an immediate impact on the Twins. He had an ERA, like you mentioned his stats, ERA under 4, whip under 1. He has a solidified spot in the rotation. But the thing that concerned me a little bit is he's very reliant on his fastball, but he also doesn't have a ton of velocity to it as it's in the low 90s. He has that his arm angle that basically kind of deceives hitters, and the kind of drop that he's going to throw with the baseball with his arm angle. The command's incredible though. And he could be the Twins' best pitcher by the end of the season. Combination of just how bad the Twins pitchers are and the combination of upside he could have. But the one thing that I'm very skeptical about Joe Ryan is in a full season where guys are going to be able to have a scouting report on you and be able to watch your tape consistently, which they didn't towards the end of last year because he was only playing at the pro level for part of the last season. Is it going to regress? Is he going to strongly regress in the other direction once major league hitters catch up to him a little bit more, with the velocity not being as high as it is and him relying so much on that fastball? That's the only thing that concerns me about Joe Ryan. But again, there are certain parts of his game I'm very much liking and think that he could be a solid pitcher for the Twins next season.
Christian, he's your number 2 guy. Or as far as an arm, what do you see for Joe Ryan?
He's just consistent. I think he's going to fill in to the rotation at number 3, number 4 starter, just because he doesn't have anything elite. He doesn't have that one pitch that stands out. He is very reliant on his fastball. When your fastball sits between 90, 93, major league hitters are going to be able to hit that, but it's just the fact that he's able to control all of his pitches and he has such great command when it comes to it. That's why he's able to execute the way he does and have the success that he has had coming up through the minor league system. And I'm sure there's something that the Rays, taught him throughout as he was developing. He does have a really good feel for his slider as well. He does have a curveball that he tries to mix into, pretty decent changeup. He's going to be, I've compared Eric Pardinho in the Blue Jays system to Kyle Hendricks as well, but he just has like that Kyle Hendricks kind of vibe to me, just because of the way he's able to locate all of his pitches. Nothing too dominant, but he should be able to, execute at a very elite level with what he has. Like he's able to perfect what he has, and that's fine as long as that'll be the reason why he's able to contribute at the major league level.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his ADP over the last month here on NFBC. He is being taken 212th overall. He's the 82nd pitcher off the board, so probably mixing about 20 relievers at that point. Tell you some names he's going around: Patrick Sandoval, Anthony DeSclafani, Taylor Rogers, Noah Syndergaard. Let me ask you this, Mendy. Who would you rather have, Joe Ryan or John Means?
That's a good one. I would say now that they moved the fence back in Baltimore, I would rather take John Means.
John Means, and he's going about 2 rounds or about a full round after Joe Ryan. Tristan McKenzie, who would you rather have, him or Joe Ryan?
Asking me?
Yep.
I like the upside for McKenzie more.
Okay, and last one here, John Gray. Who would you rather have?
I'll take John Gray because I think him getting out of Colorado, it's going to do
Him
a lot
pitching
better.
in that ballpark in Texas is going to be nice.
Yeah, but he's going 251st overall, so you can wait the full 2 rounds on him. So people are up on Joe Ryan. No one's sleeping on him, in these DC drafts. But that's because of, like what Cristian said, his consistency. Well, all right, let's look through a 6 through 10 here. We're going to start with a Matt Cantorino. Number 7, Simeon Woods Richardson. 8, Chase Petty. 9, Johan Duran. 10, Keone Cavaco. Cristian, I'll start with you. Pick 1 or 2 of these guys you want to talk about.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Chase Petty. The biggest arm coming out of this past draft. I mean, he topped, I think, 102 in high school. That should get you excited. But yeah, he's very young, 18 years old. He has, flashed plus slider. And it has a chance to be elite. It's kind of like how people were describing Max Meyer when he came out of the draft and his slider. But he also does have a good feel for a changeup already too. So he's got a good feel for 3 pitches at such a young age. The biggest thing is he's a high school pitcher, so there's a lot of risk with him, especially somebody throwing that hard that young. So not gonna say anything, but there, like I said, there is risk. He does have to clean up his delivery a little bit. His mechanics do get a little wonky, but I don't know. A lot of people are saying there's a lot of reliever risk, and it just goes with the fact that he's so young and all that. But I think there's more of a chance he could be an elite arm at the top of a rotation going forward.
Mendy, who stands out to you?
I will say something about Chase Petty. My wife's brother goes to CCNJ, and so I was trying to Google some of his or YouTube some of his highlights, and then because he went to school, Chase Petty went to high school in New Jersey. His perfect game popped up as a suggested video before he was drafted, and so I watched. I was like, "Oh my god, this guy is filthy!" Yeah. And so when he was drafted, and I was like, "He went to the Twins." I thought it's pretty cool. I was like going to my team, and I watched his highlights. So that's actually how I became familiar with him. But the guy I'll highlight is Johan Duran. I think he would be higher on this list for most people if it wasn't for the elbow injury that he had or the elbow strain he had where he missed most of 2021. But I mean, this guy, 6'5", 230 pounds. He's got a fastball right now that can sit around 97 and he can hit triple digits with it, which apparently he did regularly at the alternate site. And he has what they call a splinker, which is a splitter sinker hybrid pitch that he cranks up to 94 miles an hour and gets good swings and misses on that pitch. So I think both those pitches already are major league ready. I think just his injury and durability are right now the biggest concern. He's got to obviously be able to make sure he throws more strikes, but he has made strides in that department as the command has improved over time. I think he's a very exciting player that if he stays healthy, he could be somebody that you'll remember for sure.
Mendy, you had me at Splinker. That's all I needed to hear, and I'm fully on board. Anything you want to add to that, Cristian?
The command is definitely a concern with him. He has made strides, but it puts bullpen risk with him as well. And the elbow strain is a little bit of a concern because he was able to avoid surgery. But when you start having elbow injuries, the velocity that he throws and all that, it builds up over time. So hopefully he's able to avoid any major injuries. But he does have a ton of upside too. So I was hoping we would be able to see him up last year just because I felt he was ready for it. So we'll see this year the impact he's able to make.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be something just overall. That's the theme of 2022 for the Twins. It's a wait and see approach. Mendy's being cautious. He doesn't want to jump, doesn't want to jump in. He doesn't want to get too comfortable, and I completely respect that. All right. Well, Mendy, thank you so much for joining the show. Please plug everything that you do, and go ahead. The floor is yours.
You guys know, of course, Triple Play. It's pretty much where most of my stuff can be found as far as all the content. You guys already know the YouTube channel. We're closing on a 1.6K. So we appreciate everybody's support that checks out the videos. Check out the Twitter, Triple Play Fantasy. Check out the Instagram, Triple Play Fantasy. We're starting to build up our TikTok, as that we're closing on our first 100 followers on TikTok. So we're making our way there. And I would just tell you guys, make sure you keep checking out this prospect series, the Call Up, because you're not going to find another place that goes into every single system like these two do. These two do, if I could speak English, and they're putting in a lot of great work. So make sure that you are following these guys and you're checking out all these great episodes that they're putting out.
And that's why we call him the boss. I pass him the ball. What does he do? He passes it right back. He's a team player. We love him here. We can't thank you enough for everything that you do, not only for the brand, but for us personally. I'm going to say we love you, man. We absolutely do. But thank you, everybody, for joining in.
Definitely incredible.
It is. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. As always, please like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to continue on. What are we doing next? Is it
AL West? Come on.
AL West, baby. All right, cool. We're going to the West side. All right. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.